Hello everyone. Welcome back to another Commander review video for the Mirage set. We are talking about Shauku Endbringer, which is a legendary vampire. It costs 5 generic mana, 2 black mana. It's a 5/5 with flying and then 3 other abilities. Shauku Endbringer can't attack if there's another creature on the battlefield, so it likes to be by itself. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 3 life, so it likes to hurt you. And lastly, you can tap it to exile target creature and put a +1/+1 counter on Shauku. A lot of text there for a big hitting vampire. No card rulings, everything's pretty straightforward there. The card I chose to synergize with Shauku is an enchantment, Homicidal Seclusion. Obviously, since you're going to want to try and have Shauku by itself at all times, giving it the additional +3/+1 in lifelink is great, especially because that +3 with the lifelink will cancel out the 3 life lost from Shauku. The deck that I am putting Shauku in is going to be a little bit of a non-bow, but also kind of like as a backup plan. Is a mono-black vampire tribe deck. And this deck is more about like life stealing and going wide with a lot of life linking tokens. So again, it doesn't necessarily synergize with Shauku, but Shauku is in there so I can do like a board wipe and then have Shauku come into play, or reanimate Shauku, and then have this crazy high damage dealing vampire that can also remove threats off the board. A popular build on EDH Rec is like a life gain strategy where you're trying to steal as much life as possible, so that way you're not getting punished by the upkeep trigger. And then I personally put in Sting in this deck idea, because if all you're doing is trying to steal life from your opponent, let's take advantage of controlling the board and exiling as many creatures as possible during each combat step. And then lastly is a super mean deck idea where the entirety of the deck is, let's just make sure no one has creatures but us. So get Shauku into play, then have things like Tainted Ether that are going to cause players to immediately destroy the creatures when they ETB, are immediately going to get sacrificed when they ETB. Have creatures like Fleshbag Marauder and similar effects, so that way when they ETB, everyone's going to lose creatures. Have things like Grave Pact, so on and so forth. Then have things like Assault Suit, so when we're forcing everyone to sacrifice creatures, we can't sacrifice Shauku, so Shauku can stay at all times, even though we're going to use a ton of Edict effects on the board. And then deal a lot of commander damage with Shauku. Make sure you have protections for this, because you're going to draw a lot of hate. I've played mono black Edict decks before, not with Shauku but with other commanders, and it just draws a ton of hate. Unless that player is playing Spellslinger, they are not going to be happy with you. So be careful, have protections. But that's going to do it for Shauku Endbringer. The strengths is what board? There is no board. There is no stopping Shauku. Shauku is the only one there. So let's go for it. But as I said earlier, the board will have angry players. So be careful, because they will come after you. And if you play it wrong, they'll come after you for games to come. As I said, I've played mono black Edict decks where the whole concept was just, I have one creature, you guys have none. And there was a lot of hate at the table, even for games in the future, that even if I wasn't playing that deck, people would be like, you played that deck that one time and it made me mad. Which I personally am like, it's whatevs, it's in the past, like, it's done. But it's going to bring a lot of salt to the table, so make sure you bring some pepper with it and get some spice on in that game and take your opponents out with some massive commander damage. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!